Welcome to the JAMODI podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. What are the non-negotiables in your program?
Well, that's kind of we have our know your nose defensively, KNOW, know your nose. But I think your question probably is meant to be a little bit deeper in regards to the young men in our program. And I
Your
don't like having a lot
standards.
of rules.
Right.
I don't have a lot of rules. Um, I give my guys three things. The first thing we call Lombardi time. If we have if practice is at 2 o'clock, I expect you to be on the court at 1:45, ready to go. If we have a film session at 3, you need to be in that film room at 2:45, ready to go. If the bus is leaving at 4, you need to be on the bus at 3:45, ready to go. If you're early, you'll never be late. And I think that teaches young men one of the things I think is extremely important to be respectful of other people. And there's no better way in some regards to be respectful of someone than to be respectful of their time, because that's one of the most valuable things that we all have. So we demand and teach that. The second thing is that we all take notes. Everybody takes notes. Our assistant coach, we have a meeting that I'm addressing. Our assistant coaches take notes. Our players take notes. If one of our assistants is going through a scout or something that we've given him to do that day with our team, I'm taking notes. Everybody takes notes. We hand out a notebook to our players. It's one of the vehicles that helps us to teach our culture. And I give them motivational handouts during the year, but I don't ever give them a scout. I don't ever give them, things that we talk about, like our offensive scheme or any entries that we're going to run into our offense, our out of bounds plays, our defensive scheme. But we'll watch film and we'll say, okay, I might put it on the board. Here's an out of bounds play that we're going to run. This is what we're going to call it. This is an entry we're going to run into our motion. This is what we're going to call it. Here it is on the board. Here's what it looks like being ran with one of our former teams running it. And then we'll go out and go through it. And so it's up to them to write it down. So I think that does a couple of things. I know when I was a student, when I was a player, and even now when I go to coaches clinics, and if you ever see me at a clinic, I'm going to be sitting there taking notes on whoever speaks. It could be somebody that I could, our philosophies might be 180 degrees apart, but there's something I can learn from that coach.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I want to be able to take those notes and then go back through them later and sift through the things that I think could be good for us or something that I want to implement in my own philosophy or system of play. So second one was everybody takes notes. And the third one is everybody picks up trash. And that's kind of a metaphor that we want to leave whatever we're involved in as a player, as a coach, in our program, as a student, walking through the unit. You want to leave it better than you found it. And so there's some practical applications of that. When we're on the road and we play in somebody else's locker room, I'll guarantee you if you walk in that locker room after our team leaves, it'll be cleaner than it was before we got there, because they'll not only pick up their tape and their cups and their garbage, but they'll pick up anything that was there when they walked in the door that was there before them. Same thing with our locker room. I do not want to walk into our team room and see a towel on the floor or a pair of shoes thrown out in the middle or somebody's socks laying, halfway hanging out their locker. I want things to be, and that's probably me being a little OCD, but I want things being neat and clean and orderly. I tell them, if you're walking across campus and you see an empty Coke can or a food wrapper, pick it up and throw it away. It doesn't matter that it's not yours. And then we try to really emphasize that it's about us trying to make the world a little bit better today than the way we found it. And so I think that applies to all areas of a young man's life. And then we don't, again, I don't have a lot of rules. I want to be a leader. I don't want to be a rule person. And I believe that, and I hate this today, and I'm probably speaking against some very intelligent people, much smarter than me. But I'm not about, having 800 policies, 800 policy statements. And I know administratively and through our universities and schools, that's kind of what we live with in today's world. But I want to be able to take each situation as it comes to us and then deal with it and that young man on a personal level. I'll give you an example. Maybe we have a freshman that shows up late for a practice. All right, he's going to hear it from me, and there's going to be some type of small penalty, whatever it is. Maybe a senior comes late who's never missed a day in his whole life, never been late a single day in his whole life, and that freshman might have came up to me and said, "Coach, I had 4 flat tires. Walked out, had 4 flat. No way I could get here. You're lucky I'm here." That senior might come out and say, "Coach, I overslept, but I've never been late in my 4 years." I'm not gonna probably even penalize that senior. I'm just gonna tell him, "Listen, you've been great. You're here. Don't let it happen again. Let's go."
Yeah.
And so I think to me, that's leadership. And to me, that's being fair. That's teaching based upon individuals. Everybody's not the same. You can't treat them all the same, and you can't treat every situation the same, even though we'd like to put them under these neat and nice little umbrellas. It's really hard. It's really hard to do that without knowing your people. Yeah. So that's kind of, so what I was going to say is that obviously we just tell them very simply, right from wrong, do right. Do right. I mean, we recruited you because we've talked to people, we talked to your coaches, your counselors, your parents, people who know you. We've watched, the difference between right and wrong. I got asked this the other day. Do you have study table for your players? We do not. We've had 2 years of the highest grade point averages in our school's history with our teams, with our basketball team. We're gonna recruit guys who can be successful in the classroom, who want to be successful in the classroom. Because if you want to be successful in today's classroom, you're going to have an opportunity to be successful. We have enough resources available to you to help you be successful. So if I have a study table 4 nights a week from 7 to 9, what I'm doing is I'm infringing upon that good student's ability to meet with a study group outside of that class, or to spend quiet time in his own room or in the library going through whatever he needs to do. Now, that's not to say we wouldn't prescribe that if we had someone who was having an issue and needed help. We would get them the help that they need. But again, that's treating every situation differently and not trying to treat everybody the same, because they're not the same.
Golly, Coach, there's so much good stuff there with your standards. Because I like what you said too, not necessarily non-negotiables, but just standards, things that you live by. One thing you've said a few times, you said they have to want to be a good student. You mentioned before they have to want to be coached hard. So that want to, I hope that players listening to this hear that college coaches want guys that want things, that choose to be coached hard, choose to do the right thing all the time.
No doubt. I love what I do. And part of the reason I love what I do is the impact. Probably the biggest reason is the impact that we get to make on people's lives. So to be surrounded by people who want to be successful, who want to work hard, who want to be pushed to help them get to the next step in their life. Matt, a lot of times what we're doing, and I don't want to act like we're the biggest influence here, because we're never take the place of a young man or young lady's parents,
Right.
but we have them for 4 years. And when they're in college, I'm seeing them every single day and for at least 2-3 hours a day. And so I do have a chance to have an impact on them, and our ability to take young men and to help mold them to be better fathers, better husbands, better leaders in their own communities is what it's really all about.
I love hearing just the amount of pride that you take in impacting your players' lives, that it's not just about X's and O's and what they can do for you on the floor. It's that kind of that bigger purpose to what we do as coaches.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that gets lost a little bit by the outside world. They only see why'd you call that timeout? Why
Right.
didn't you go zone? They don't
Yeah.
they don't see the development that's going on with our young men and young ladies as we coach them on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.